Alright, so it's hard to believe it's been 3 years since I started YouTube. Now I've been off and on, but I'm back into it full time. And what has changed as far as the fish room, especially in feeding my fish? What did I do when I started 3 years ago and what am I doing now? So the big one is I'm making all my own foods. I do not use any store-bought foods. What I found was some of the ingredients were questionable, not only for the fish but me touching it. So I was just really concerned because in my business I deal with chemicals every single day, and I know chemicals are everything from water to air, but some of the stuff put into the chemicals by scientists are questionable to me. So there's even one food on the market that I just could not believe what was in it, but I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to not knock another food, but all my foods, and so obviously I don't keep everything in the nice neat, you know, because everything's testing. I'm always testing. But my number one food now is the Daily Delight. The downfall with the frozen version was you had to make it at home. Now the hardcore people were doing it and everybody was pretty happy with it. There was one complaint on the chlorella green, but I offered to give money back, but he's never gotten back to me. So if you're watching this video, contact me. I'll send you your money back if you're not happy. But what happened was I met someone that had a freeze dryer, and he said, let's test it out in the freeze dryer. Well, my last video, I just mentioned it literally like a side note at the end of the video, and it sold out the next day. It was over a pound of food. So we actually went and made a couple kilos of it, and it'll be ready by Monday. So if you're watching this video on Sunday, it'll be ready the next day and be ready to ship out if you want more. So let's talk about the Daily Delight. It's my number one food in the fish room. So I keep it in one of these Tupperwares because I feed a lot of it. And if you look at it, and the new version is actually in little squares, so it's a little bit better, but you want to feed just enough, so a little goes a long way with this stuff. Okay, so let me put it in this tank, and these are my future breeders, and these are all grade A discus now. So let's put them on the glass. What's nice about this food is when you stick it in the water, it starts absorbing water instantly. I'm at a weird angle here, and then you smash it. You want to really smash it against the glass, because here's the thing: if you smash it hard against the glass, and it will not float. Now there's some situations where you want this to float, and I'll go over that later in the video. But if you look at it, it breaks up pretty nice when they hit it, and it's got everything good in it when you look at the ingredients here. So one thing I wanted was a food that I could feed my fish when they were in their soft water breeding, and they could get calcium and magnesium from their food, because mostly soft water is void of that. So if you look at the first three ingredients: Atlantic white shrimp, Atlantic cod, and Atlantic salmon. All those are pretty high in calcium and magnesium, plus tons of other vitamins. So there are vitamins added to this, but I don't even think it's necessary because all the ingredients are pretty insane. You have krill, black soldier fly larvae, wheat gluten. Wheat gluten is a binder. Now there's not a lot of wheat gluten in this stuff because everything binds pretty good. The shrimp acts as a binder, and the krill actually acts as a little binder. But the wheat gluten was important, and that was the biggest one I had to manipulate up and down to get it just right, because sometimes it would just disintegrate in the water, and other times it would bind too much. And then you have mysis, bloodworms, chlorella, brewer's yeast, which is a probiotic. Okay, so the brewer's yeast is the probiotic. The glomeris, insect meal, shrimp meal, benthic freshwater algae, freshwater sponges, tubifex, stinging nettle, green lip mussel, garlic. So garlic is the probiotic. I believe I got that right. I don't remember. One's a pre and one's a pro. I can't remember because I've done all the research on that. And then vitamins and minerals. So it's a good food. The fish eat it. And what I like about it is I know they're getting everything they need off of this one food, but I do feed other foods. And then there's the chlorella green, which is in stock too. And this is more of a an herbivore to omnivore, where the Daily Delight is a omnivore to carnivore. So you can look at it online, ShellerAquatics.com. But it's really just easy to feed, and I really like the frozen version, but the convenience of the freeze-dried is pretty incredible. So it's the exact same product, all right? Just stick it against the glass. Okay. And if it doesn't stick, as long as you smash it real good, it's going to fall, and that's what we want. We don't want it to float because it tends to be harder for the discus to break up when it's floating. Now the guppies, I like it to float. The rainbowfish, I like it to float a little bit. So these guys are growing really well. There's 9 of them in here, and these are all future breeders. They're all about 8 to 9 months, and I hope to have them available in about another 9 months to fry. So excited about these. They are amazing, amazing, amazing fish, and all top grade, shape, color, everything, and you know, and they all have those bars, which I love. So, all right, so that has been the biggest change in my fish room as far as feeding. But I really have no more commercial brands or store-bought food. I do feed some frozens, but very rarely. I've had a pound of, let's see, a pound of bloodworms, a pound of mysis, and a pound of shrimp for the last year. And I probably still have a half pound left because I've been feeding my foods, and I'm really enjoying feeding them because just the quality. And I know, and the fish are growing. I grow out my fry, everything on those. And I have a wide variety because I want to make sure I cover all the bases as far as pellets, flake, fry food, and you know, so on and so on. So we'll kind of go over some of those food. All right, so the next question is that I get a lot is how often do I feed my fish? And that depends. If they're small fry, sometimes they eat 4 or 5 times a day. If they're adults, once a day, maybe twice a day, depending on, you know, if I'm available. And then sometimes I skip days. Some days I just won't feed the adults because they don't tend to attack food like the growing fish, and I believe they don't need as much nutrients as often as the growing fish. So sometimes 5 days a week, you know, I'll skip a Tuesday and a Sunday, or sometimes I'll feed 2 times a day. So it just depends on the adults. That varies. But the younger fish is all was unexpected. All right, let's get this on. So one thing that's nice is the Casa lights. So, you know, I can kind of control these lights from anywhere, on vacation, anywhere. But yeah, the app is amazing. It really works well, and that was not planned. My lights just went out. So, and it's actually set up to sunrise, sunset. And here in Utah, the sun is setting right now. So, all right, so let's talk about this tank. These are the Gary Lang Lake Antijo Bozemanii. They get fired up in the morning, and this guy turns almost solid black. But it also has my L134 leopard frog plecos in it, and those get fed at night, so we don't feed those. Sometimes they come out. There's a couple females that hang back here, and if I put the food in and goes back, you'll see them chewing on it. But you can even see the little fry. So I used to pull the mops because I breed these just because I enjoy them, not for really a profit, because they're hard to get profitable. But one thing I'm noticing with the foods that I feed, even the rainbows grow a little quicker. I can get a rainbow to size in about 12 to 13 months, where it took me on regular food about 18 months. So something about the quality. All right, so here's the chlorella green, and this is freeze-dried too. And I want to show you how I feed the rainbows this, okay? So basically I have a mat filter here, and you can see that water flow. And then I just take the piece, and then I just stick it in the flow, and you'll see them strike it. So, and that feeds the whole tank, and whatever they don't eat, the plecos eat later. What I'm finding with the plecos, the L numbers at least, they really enjoy the Daily Delight, but they do eat this. But I don't put a lot of this in at night, just a little, like probably a pinch between your thumb and finger. That's how much I feed these guys. But so these these are my breeding group of the Bozemanii, Lake Antigua. So I'll feed a little bit more. But you can see the little fish, they eat these. So you can really take it and break it up fine for the little fish too. I suggest that if you do this, you do it in some water flow. That way it breaks it up and sends it through the tank and everybody gets an even distribution. So the discus we feed in chunks, the smaller fish we feed and we break it up in water flow. So it's a great way to feed. And what's nice about this stuff, I had a question, how long do you think this would last? I'm guessing freeze dried, probably a year it's good for. I would say try to use it up within 6 months. That's why I don't sell big portions of it. But I would guess a year. I mean, if you stuck it in the fridge for sure, but you just don't want moisture getting to it, so a tightly sealed jar. But yeah, it's pretty incredible. And this one didn't take as long to make. This one was a product of about the year and a half it took me to get the Daily Delight, and I got this one within 6 months. So, all right, next one. All right, I'm down here because I'm going to demonstrate the bell for you. And the next question I get a lot, what is the top fish food in your fish room? So this is one of them, and really all of them are really good because I really don't have them in my fish room unless they're top quality. Because my goal here is to breed fish and make some money and at least pay for stuff, and hopefully the product business will take off. But this is the bell I invented, and this was more about a necessity to feed my small fish to grow out correctly, where they're not going to be done with their food in 5 minutes, because I don't believe in feeding 3 to 5 minutes. This is probably one of my favorite foods. Right here is a freeze-dried. Now these are all Australian blackworms. These aren't the California. And they're just better quality because they're a little bit thicker. And all the fish go crazy for them. It's pretty high in protein. What's nice about this is it's an awesome delivery. If you have metronidazole and you need to feed, you can literally take this and put a dent in there, stick the metronidazole, a toothpick, get it in there, throw some vitamins on top. It's a great delivery system, but the fish go crazy for it. So this is how I feed. You can use brine shrimp. There's all different kinds of things you can put in. Sometimes I stuff freeze-dried bloodworms in there. Sometimes I stuff freeze-dried mices. But here's the way I like to do it. I take a blackworm cube, and I stuff it in there so it covers up these top holes. If you look here, these top holes, I want those covered because that's going to start the feeding process. So then what I do is I take Optimal Growth. This is amazing. And you know, what is my top food? Well, if it doesn't have a certain criteria, I don't want it in my fish room. So Superba Grill, brine shrimp, mysis shrimp, black soldier fly larvae, bloodworms, blackworms, tubifex, gramaris, yeast, stinging nettle, green lip mussels, garlic, and vitamins. So this is a grow out food, right? I do feed it to my adults sometimes, but really it's meant for smaller fish, especially young discus. But you can feed it, you can just take this and throw it in a tank of rainbows and they'll attack that within a couple minutes. So here's the trick to this stuff. If you want the bigger chunks, you shake it, and you notice how all that big stuff comes to the top, and then you get this nice spoonful of really beefy, chunky stuff, right? And that can go in. Now, a question is, do I compress this? Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It just depends. But one thing that's nice about all the freeze-dried food is it floats. So it tends, when the bell drops in, it tends to stay inside the cone. But if you look here, you got the heavy stuff, and then down at the bottom you have the fine stuff. Now this is all really good stuff, but if you have fish that are not getting food, or they're not, and you have a big tank and they're not getting to be able to attack the food, this is a great way to go because they're going to graze on this, and discus are grazers, so they'll eat on this for hours. And that's kind of the goal of the bell, is longer feeding periods where I don't have to touch the tank as much. So I'm going to put both in. Alright, and let's take that to the tank. So there you go. So you have that. So I did 2 scoops. You can do 1 scoop. You can just put 2 blackworms in there. You can put brine shrimp cubes in there. You can put freeze-dried mysis, freeze-dried bloodworms. You can do all kinds of stuff. Now, I've never tried the Daily Delight freeze-dried in there. I don't know if that would work. This is really meant to be on its own vessel as far as delivery. So, all right, let's go feed a tank this stuff. All right, so these are the wild F1 cross Koopa, the Royal Koopa. These are my future breeders. What I'll do is I'll cut this in half and then sell off half, and then I'll take the 6 left and I'll cut those in half and save 3. I'm going to try to save 1 male and 2 females with this because I'm going to keep breeding this. This is a pretty rare fish right now. So, and it's going to be really rare because they're going to be decimated in the wild. And then, so this is really simple. You just kind of throw it in there. Now you notice that I used the lid to stop it. The reason why I made this cord is because not all the lids seal right. So what I would do is I would take this, and you can see here, sometimes I can wrap it around, or I can hook it on to a piece of metal. There's all different ways. So I wanted options on that. So I don't know if you can see that. So let's put it down here. Yeah. So it just gives options, and I make it 3 feet long because I just found that was the perfect length. But you want to keep it higher in the column because you see how they're feeding. Now, if you look really close, you can see the debris coming off, and that's the point of this, is for even growth, right? These fish have all been growing together since they were on mom and dad, and got put in a 20 and then a 29, and now they're in this 40. So once they reach this size, they go into a bigger tank because I don't have to do water changes every single day. And really at this point, they're done with their growth spurts, and they're really just getting their growth through the food. I do change water probably every other day, usually about 50% on this tank, but it's a 45, 50 gallon, and there's 11 growing fish in there. So what I love about the Bell is just the fact that I can feed in the morning, go to work, maybe come home at noon, put another one in, and then come home after work and put another one in, and they got 3 full feedings. And you get this kind of growth when you have food available all the time. Now, if I feed like that, if I feed 3 or 4 times a day with a Bell, then the next day they do get a full water change, right? They get a 50% water change because it doesn't cloud the water, but they produce so much waste that if any issues going on in the tank, I don't want it to become an issue as far as polluting the tank with their their feces and whatever. So it's just a good idea when you're growing fish. Now, I had a lot of controversy on how I grow out Discus, and what you have to understand are Discus are a different fish. They're not like a guppy. They're not, and so the compressed fish is, you think of angelfish, but even angelfish, you don't have to be as intense. But there's nothing worse than going through and breeding Discus, and then all of a sudden you've stunted a Discus. Because if you stunt one, you're probably going to stunt the whole group. And sometimes you have groups of 100, 200, 250. I've even had 300 spawns, right? And what you don't want is those stunted out, because basically they're all going to stunt out after a month and a half. So you spent every day taking care of them, and all of a sudden, you miss a week, and you miss that week, and then all of a sudden you can see their eyes getting bigger, and that's a cause of the body not growing anymore and the eyes still growing. And once you see that, so you should be able to look at a Discus and count their eyes on that stripe, right? To me, it's 5. If I can't count 5 eyes on a Discus, then that Discus is starting to stunt. But if you look at this guy right here, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 6.5, right? And that's because of these foods. But also, if you feed these foods like Rainbowfish, they're going to grow quicker because there's no garbage in here. There's no preservatives. I mean, the garlic's considered a preservative, but that's a natural preservative, right? So that's important to me, is not to have fillers, because fillers cause a lot of issues as far as stunting fish, and there's no nutrients in a filler, right? That's just basically to lower the cost, which I understand. But the thing is yeah, my foods are a little more expensive, but technically they're about the same as everybody else. but they're better quality. And the reason I can do that now is because I don't have manufacturing, I don't have overhead, I don't have employees. I do all this myself. I make the stuff, and it's not something that I dread doing. I get so excited every time someone orders one of my products, because it's like, that is amazing. That I've sat for 2 years and come up with this stuff, and then someone will buy it. So I just wanted to kind of go over the difference on feeding, as far as what I used to feed and what I feed now. Now, if you want to see one of my original videos approximately 3 years ago where I talked about foods, you're going to notice a big difference in the foods I fed then that I feed now. Actually, I think that there's actually only a couple foods I still feed from that list 3 years ago. So if you're interested in that, watch this video here and it'll go over everything from 3 years ago to now.